With the strong possibility of the attack on Israel expanding to other countries, understanding why this attack went undetected is important to Israel's future. Hi, I'm Steve Monteiro, former Secret Service agent, military veteran, and author. I spent decades working in law enforcement, security, and intelligence around the globe and wrote a book about one of those missions called The Gray Bird of Baghdad. But we're here to talk about how the Mossad, one of the most impressive intelligence agencies on the planet, could have missed the largest attack on Israel in 50 years. Let's find out. Hi, I'm Steve Monteiro, and thanks for joining. Like everyone else across the country and around the world, for that matter, I've been glued to the television set over the last several days, watching the incidents unfold in Israel and praying for those innocent people that may be caught up in this horrible event. But the reason that we're here today is to talk about how the Mossad, one of the most impressive and accomplished intelligence agencies on the planet, could have missed this attack, the largest on Israel in 50 years. Now, there have been rumblings that Israel may have picked up information that something was being planned. And there have been reports that outside intelligence agencies, meaning belonging to other countries, may have warned Israel in advance that something was being planned. So if that were true, and we don't know that that's true at this point, but if it were true, why did Israel not issue any warnings? How come no red flags were raised? And how come they didn't change their security posture in light of this information? Well, my thoughts on are that could possibly have occurred because Israel basically is always under a threat warning from Hamas. This is nothing unusual. Hamas has threatened Israel and attacked Israel for years. So being under a general threat advisory or picking up information on the wire or getting warned by outside intelligence agencies that something is up and that's all that you have probably wouldn't have risen to the level of concern in which you needed to do something with in terms of issuing warnings or changing your security posture or enacting lockdowns and so forth, because the information is just general in nature. For example, Israel picks up information that they may be attacked in the spring, and that's all that you have. Well, what do you do with that information? Do you employ resources? Do you up your security posture, as I mentioned? And then the spring comes and goes and nothing happens. And now you pick up information that indicates it may happen in the summer. So now what do you do? So I think you get my point as to how difficult it is in dealing with just general threat information. So the possibility that Israel may have picked this up or may have been warned, again, probably didn't rise to the level of concern because it's business as usual. Hamas threatens Israel all the time. We don't have any specifics, so there's probably not much that we can do with it. Now, because intelligence information tends to be general in nature, it does make decision-making extremely difficult because very seldom are the bad guys going to lay out their plan in a specific and detailed manner, making it easy for you to follow along and interrupt their activities. That just doesn't happen. Gathering intelligence information and analyzing it is like putting together a giant puzzle with lots of pieces. One example of how difficult that can be is the hunt for Osama bin Laden, which took CIA analysts 10 years of painstaking work in order to locate where he was residing. Another issue I believe that may come into play is the over-reliance on technology. And many intelligence agencies obviously use technology because it does work. It allows us to collect voluminous amounts of information. And the problem with that is that because we are now collecting so much information, it becomes difficult to manage, to deal with it, to analyze it, and to connect the dots and look for that crucial piece of intelligence information contained in this vast amount of information you're able to collect. And another problem that Israel may have faced is that these collection activities, whether it's collecting satellite imaging or scanning internet traffic or scanning phone calls or other electronic intercepts or tracking the movement of money often happen in different departments or divisions or silos, as I call them. So what we wind up having is buckets of information collected by different departments in their own silos, sometimes with their own programs and systems and own protocols that don't talk to each other as effectively as they should and don't share information as effectively as they should. Now, we've experienced that in the United States. Before the attacks on 9/11 occurred, we had information that there were Saudis within the country who were taking lessons, flying lessons, and learning how to take off on a plane but not landing. Now, the FBI and the CIA weren't effectively exchanging information in a way that they should have, and warnings were not given, and ultimately we were attacked on 9/11. So we've had our own issues with sharing information. So I'm sure that Israel also deals with this potential problem. So again, dealing with technology has its pluses, but then it becomes difficult in managing, and then, as I mentioned, sharing all that information. Now, with the rise of technology, I believe came the less and less use of human intelligence sources to collect information. Now, there was a time when our intelligence information was almost entirely collected from human sources, or we call it human sources, or people who provide information, because we didn't have the technology back in the day to do this. So we developed the skills necessary to collect that human information and develop sources that would give us that information. I think our reliance on technology has lessened our skill set in terms of collecting human intelligence. Now, I realize that for Israel, that could be a challenge in trying to get someone close or get human sources to provide information against a group like Hamas, which is a very closed organization, very difficult to penetrate. So I understand that. But perhaps if Israel had more boots on the ground in and around Gaza, they may have been successful in picking up bits of information that could have added to the puzzle that I talk about. Another issue that I think Israel faces, as well as all other intelligence agencies, is that intelligence information is interpretive, meaning that it could mean something different to whatever analyst is looking at it. It is often not clear and concise and specific. It is just bits and pieces of information that you have to analyze. And you could have different analysts looking at this information and coming away with different conclusions. That is extremely common. And I'll reference the hunt for Osama bin Laden, which was depicted in the movie Zero Dark 30. There was a scene in the movie in which these intelligence analysts at the CIA were seated around a conference table, and the CIA director came in and asked each one of the analysts what the probability was of Osama bin Laden, the most wanted terrorist on the planet, hiding out in a home in Abbottabad, Pakistan. Well, he went around the room, and some analysts said 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%. So there wasn't a consensus, and that is generally how it works. Very seldom are you going to get a consensus. So you can only imagine how difficult it is as a decision maker to make decisions just based on probabilities, especially decisions involving life or death. So as we faced that decision here in the United States, I'm certain that Israel faces those similar type situations in their own intelligence gathering abilities. Now, the other thing that also could be a possibility is that intelligence analysts and decision makers might not want to go out on a limb and report something and say, for example, I've got intelligence information that I'm really certain of that we are going to get attacked in the next 2 weeks. So they take that information and they start employing additional security measures and lockdowns and all of the things that I mentioned. And then 2 weeks goes by and nothing happens. Well, do you think that intelligence analysts and those decision makers are going to do that again? So human nature being what it is, you have analysts and decision makers sometimes reluctant to come forward and stand behind the intelligence information that they've acquired for fear of being wrong and causing massive disruptions and panic when they go ahead and employ these additional security measures. So that's another factor that could have been part of the equation here as to why they may have missed the attack. I also think that another issue is Israel's failure to understand that their enemy will get better over time. Now, Hamas employed a very impressive operational security plan, or OPSEC plan, to keep this attack, which was planned for months and involved hundreds of attackers, quiet. Now, in my opinion, they did that clearly with the assistance of the Iranians, but it was very effective. Now, the Iranians may have given them cyber defensive capabilities, encryption capabilities. They may have worked with Hamas to enact a plan in which to put out false information. They may have employed a whole host of activities, because I think the Iranians over time have learned to understand Israel's intelligence gathering capabilities, and may have exploited that and passed that information on to Hamas. So it was quite impressive that they were able to do this. And I think overall that is the key issue involving why this thing went undetected. This very impressive operational security plan that kept this plan that involved hundreds of planners and attackers quiet for months. There's information that it was planned for several months, and part of that planning may have actually taken place in Beirut, Lebanon, which had even expanded the amount of people involved in it. So I think that was the key. The operational security plan that was employed with Iran's assistance made this detection pretty difficult to uncover. Now, over time, Israel will unpack all this information and fix those gaps. But the bottom line is that collecting intelligence information, looking for the needle in the haystack, is a very difficult endeavor. It is not a science, and it'll remain difficult going forward in the future. And it's up to intelligence agencies like the Mossad to adapt and constantly improve their abilities to uncover attacks like the one that happened on October 7th. That's my take on it. I'd love to hear your comments, so please leave them below. And if you like the show, hit the like button, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if there are other episodes that you are interested in. And also, click the link below to get a copy of my book, The Gray Bird of Baghdad. You don't want to miss out on that. I'm Steve Monteiro. Thanks for listening. Until next time.